Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be back. George Morgan here at your service. It's PSGL, it's Wednesday night, it's Spain tonight as well. Lots on the table, lots of battling. The title contest is still alive and kicking. And Jack, it's only taken us 10 rounds. We're on the 11th. It's all to play for.
Boromant goes on the inside and takes the lead on the final lap of the race. Now it's side by side between Boromant and Warner, but Boromant's got the inside.
A guest star here in this phenomenal race. Cameron Dowd looking to take P2 in his very first PSGL F1 PC race. Incredible to say the least. You see that Putin to lead. 1.5 seconds. DRS is the name.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome along to PSGL F2, sponsored by GT Omega, of course. We are here this evening for the Italian Grand Prix, but we're not at Monza, we are at Imola, of course, a racetrack that is rooted in history, and it should certainly be an absolutely fantastic race. Joining alongside me this evening for the first time in quite a few weeks, it is More Games who is back. More, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well and glad to be back. Obviously, you missed a few weeks being over in England, but it's okay because I'm back for this Imola Grand Prix, I should say, and the final half of the season, which is always the most exciting half of the season. So definitely happy I came back for this part.
Yes, it should be a good one. We're a little bit late starting our pre-race coverage, so we're going to jump straight into things and take a look at the drivers' standings. It is, of course, Enelor Airpec who is at the top. It is still a Williams 1-2. Gabriel 12 points behind in second. Baki then in third. Of course, his first race as a main driver was last week, but he obviously still accumulated a fairly decent tally of points as a reserve driver. Keke is then following Dark, of course, who had a bit of a lackluster race in Japan, but has still been performing well across the course of a season. Zane then is in sixth, followed by Newth, Tales, Johan, Dirk, Macho covers Diogo Silva, Noel, Fede, Max van der Geest, Will Murdoch, Nicolope, Ates, and Mal, rounding out the top 20. Let's take a quick look at our track then for this evening before we head into qualifying. It's a 4.909 kilometre circuit, 3.050 miles with 19 corners, 10 to the left and 9 to the right. The lap record that belongs to Lewis Hamilton in his very dominant W12. But ladies and gentlemen, there is no fussing about this evening here in PSGL F2. The tier coordinator has done a splendid job, if I do say so myself, and we are getting ready to go for qualifying here for the Imola Grand Prix. Of course, we had a few delays last week. We had a couple of lobby issues. Hopefully, now that Moore is back, we can have some regularity put forward here in PSGL F2, because me and Timon, we had a little bit of waffling to do last week during the lobby delays and stuff, but we're all ready to go here in Imola, and it's sort of a dull day here in Italy. Of course, the real race around Imola, the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, was cancelled for this F1 season due to rain. I wonder will we get any in the race.
Yeah, we definitely might be. Like you said, a bit of an overcast day today. Always a possible sign of rain. But currently, drivers getting out there while it is dry, making sure that they do get those times on the soft compound tire. But yeah, it could be the thunderstorm type of rain that we had in real life for the Grand Prix itself. Only time will tell us. But the qualifying session having started, there are a couple of drivers out on track, and I do believe the first man out on track is the VIR man of VII Dark, who we were just talking about, and he is coming into the final two turns of this circuit. I always say this, I'll say it once, I'll say it again. VII Dark, a fantastic qualifier, and yeah, like you mentioned, didn't do brilliantly in the last race. He has put on good performance, getting one podium and 3 top 5s total, but it's just the consistency. He's finished in the points 3 times, and then obviously 3 other times he's finished outside of the points. So it's all a little bit hit or miss with the VIR man. Hopefully he can do well here in Imola, but you know, this is a very difficult circuit, not only to actually drive, as we're seeing him do through the first sector, but also to overtake in the Grand Prix itself. Only one DRS zone down the pit straight, so it'll be interesting to see how these drivers play this. But VII Dark coming into the middle sector will hopefully be the first man to set lap time, but coming out of that fast left-hander he has actually invalidated his lap time, so it doesn't look like he'll be the first man to set time. Instead, it'll be his teammate behind him, VIR Skyline, as he comes out of Aqua Minerali. You can see a little bit of traffic as he has to cut his way through the Williams and the Aston Martin as he goes over the curbs of turn number 14 and 15. Just got the final 2 left-handers to go, and then he will be finished with the first lap time of the session, which will obviously give us a bit of an indication as to what kind of times these guys will be setting. So now out of the final turn of turn number 18, and let's see what he does across the line now. VIR Skyline, he goes to P1 with the 14 flat. So that shows that a 1 minute 13 second lap time is definitely very possible. But with the benchmark at the session, we're going to see a lot more coming through now.
Yeah, summed up perfectly by Moore there. It's a little bit hit or miss for Dark and Alfa Romeo, and you can see one driver making a mistake on his lap, the other one setting a fairly decent banker lap for everyone to chase. Diogo Silva goes to second, then for Alpine, his teammate coming up behind is going to be Ryman, who goes to second spot on the grid. Dirk invalidating his lap, just like Dark, the two very similar named drivers, both making very similar mistakes. Max then goes up to the top, 113.7. AlphaTauri, of course, not the only home team here at Imola, and you don't need me to introduce the other one. Baki's heading in towards the final couple of corners. Few cars in front finishing laps, but let's take a look at Baki then heading through here. He's currently your fan favourite for pole in the stream chat vote. Covers goes to 4th, Baki beats him, goes one better for 3rd. Keke then goes to 7th position, or 2nd position, not 7th position, apologies. Keke goes to 2nd position. Spicer goes to 6th. Johan goes to 7th. Newton validating on his lap, but here comes one of the championship challengers. It is Gabriel who's rounding through the final corner. That's actually a mistake from Tales out of the Varante Alta. He is out of qualifying, and that is a crash on the circuit. We'll go on board with Ryman. You can see him planted in the wall on the right hand side. That is Tales, who is usually maybe a little bit lackluster in qualifying, but comes into his own in the race, has made a crucial error here and is out of qualifying at the very early stages. It is, of course, not his usual teammate of Mal alongside him here this evening. It is the G-League driver of Ethan looking to perform here in PSGL. I believe it's a debut for Ethan, but he's looking to perform, and certainly if he gets a lap on the board here, he's already going to out-qualify his provisional teammate.
And that would be very, very nice in your first Grand Prix in PSGL. Always what you're trying to aim to do. But let's see if he can get a decent time on support relative to everyone else. And sadly, he cannot go to last place out of everyone who set a lap time just yet. But of course, that's his first time, not only in the qualifying session, but in this tier itself. So he's got plenty of time to try and improve upon that and get a little bit closer to those top guys, but currently looking very, very close at the top, what we absolutely love to see, and obviously not too uncommon at a short circuit like this. Only 1 minute 13 second lap times, and you can see all the way from P1 to P7 have found their way into the 1 minute 13 second lap times, and currently only separated by around 3/10. So that's good to see that the coverage between the field isn't too wide. I do believe NLR Erpek is finishing up his lap time. Our championship leader coming out of the final turn now. And let's see where he can go relative to his teammate. He goes to pole position. Not only does he take that provisional pole, he takes it by 0.2 of a second. That is a fantastic time from NLR Erpek, and the man who has finished in the top 5 every single race he has competed in. The same goes for his Williams teammate Gabriel as well. Two fantastic drivers in this division, currently running away with that 1-2 lead, and Erpek now in that provisional pole slot, 0.2 ahead of Max van der Gies. That is a fantastic time from Erpek, and it's only his first in the session, so there is still going to be time to improve upon that, and I'm sure he will improve upon that. So Erpek looking very promising at the start of this session. One man who didn't look too promising was VIR Dark, but he has now gone for his second lap time, and he hasn't invalidated coming into the final sector of the lap time. So hopefully he can also be up there in the challenge for pole position now as he heads out of turn number 18 with quite a nice line. Coming up to the line though, what will he set? It's going to be a 1 minute 14.1. That starts him just behind his VIR and Alfa Romeo teammate Skyline to put him into the top 10 positions, and that means only 2 drivers without a lap time in the session. That's got to be OP Dirk and Lewis in the AlphaTauri.
Dirk, of course, your race winner from Suzuka. It looked like it was all taken away from him when he was running out of tyres in the latter stages of the race. But he clawed back all that time to Irpek and took a stunning victory on first attempt here. Or not first attempt, it was his first victory that he really sort of challenged for. And he managed to take the race win. Let's see how qualifying goes then for him as he's heading up towards the left-hander of Piratella, turn number 9. And then it is technically turn number 10 as well, this little downhill kink before 11, 12 and 13 of Aqua Minerale in the McLaren. Looking fairly stable through here. And, yeah, that's speaking too soon because Dirk runs over that yellow, or that white line on the outside, the yellow curbing. And it's an invalidated time for him. Skyline improves to third for Alfa Romeo. Very decent lap there from Skyline. He is putting himself up in good positions in this qualifying, and he's looking to improve that. Further upon, at the end of the session, Diogo Silva coming through the final corners as well. Dirk just in front of him. Dirk, the only McLaren here for this evening. That's the only team not to have two representatives on the field. There goes Diogo Silva up to 9th. Purple sector 3, it says. Wouldn't necessarily believe that, but still promising signs if you can improve by 0.4 of a second on a qualifying lap in PSGL. Next up is one of the Alpha Tauris to start a run, I believe. That is Lewis, who has just gone on his lap. It absolutely is Lewis, who has just gone on to his next attempt in qualifying. Ryman is heading down towards the chicane. No, he's backed off at time. Was matching his PB in the first sector, heading through Tamburello and, of course, the Varante Villeneuve, but backed off somewhere in the middle sector. Next couple of laps starting here in PSGL F2. If you're enjoying the action, of course, we once again remind you to pop a subscription on the YouTube channel. Make sure you like the stream and check out our title sponsors, GT Omega. Skyline heading through the final couple of corners. No, he's pulling into the pit lane, apologies. He's just completed his lap, hasn't he? He's a little bit out of sync, a little bit earlier. Of course, in the run, we saw the two Alfa Romeos with the first two cars, really, to start their qualifying efforts. Spicer gets on a run as well, as does Max van der Geest. And I believe it is Max van der Geest, because I know we had a fellow Dutchman in the commentary box last week who very much found my pronunciation of Max's surname amusing, so I'm going to hope that the adaptation is correct for this week. But there goes Spicer, 0.165 up in the first sector. That's a big improvement considering he is 6.5 of a second off pole position. But we're going to keep an eye on those behind him as well, heading through the first couple of runs. Paki currently in 5th position. He's heading up towards the Varante Villeneuve. Let's see what he can do on his first lap here in qualifying. Sector split coming up now before the entrance of Toza. He is improving, narrowly, but is improving. Quite crucially, you got to just keep improving. Imola is a track that if you fall out of a flow, it can cost you a lot. More so in the race, of course, because you're trying to keep a steady pace and qualifying more on and off, maybe, than the main Grand Prix. Here comes Max then, heading down towards the final corner. Keke is just behind him, the other Mercedes of Spicer heading towards the start-finish line. Now, where does he jump to? Jumps up to 3rd spot. Here comes Max across the start-finish line. Is it enough for a provisional pole? It's not. That's going to be a huge confidence booster for Irpek to know his lap is good enough for pole, and he is improving even more. Here comes Keke on the run towards the start-finish line. The finishman won the Austrian Grand Prix. He's gone to pole here in Imola. It says it's the exact same time. It's more likely than not 1,000 quicker. Doesn't matter now, does it? Because Baki goes to pole here in his Haas Formula 1 car. That's an excellent lap from him. The Red Bull behind of Ethan just starting a next run. Of course, the only Red Bull remaining in the session here in PSGL. Airpex heading in towards the Ravazza corners of turn 18. Down towards the start-finish line now through the kink of 19. This is surely going to go quickest for Airpex, isn't it? Yep. It's that 0.2 of a second advantage that Airpek loves to have in his locker, and he goes up to the top here on provisional pole. Gabriel pulling into the pit lane, not getting a second attempt across the line here in qualifying. Zane goes to 7th position. The other Alfa Romeo of Dark starting his next attempt as he heads down towards Tamburello.
What an amazing time there from Erdbeck. Just continues to show that he is the dominant man in this session. 2/10 ahead again. This time it's ahead of Baki rather than Van der Geest. So that's a fantastic time once again from Erdbeck. And if he keeps improving at this rate, he might even set a 1 minute 12 second lap time. Although that would be some extremely impressive stuff. But he's currently 2/10 ahead in that provisional pole position, riding on board with VII Dark as he heads through turn number 9 here. Currently down in P14 and a lot further down than you might have expected to be. And obviously his teammate Skyline was able to find a big improvement to find himself in P6, and now VII Dark almost improving by 0.4 of a second. So this could be an extremely quick lap time from the VIR man. He's just got the final 2 braking zones to go before he finally sees where he is placed at this midpoint in the session. Out of turn number 18, really using the curb on the exit. And across the line, where would he go relative to everyone else? It's up into P5 with the 13.6, putting him just 0.4 away from that provisional pole position. Right behind Max van der Giesen, ahead, crucially, of his VIR teammate Skyline. So VIR and Alfa Romeo as a whole doing quite well in this session, currently in P5 and P7. Same can't be said for Williams' consistency, because while one man is on that provisional pole position, NLR Gabriel, his main championship contender, is a lot further down that not only he should be, but he wants to be as well. 13.9 currently for Gabriel, 0.7 away from that provisional pole position. Gabriel's only going to have one more attempt in this session, as VIR Skyline has just gone up to P3, 3/1000s away from Baki. So VIR doing fantastic in this session so far. But Gabriel, like I said, only one more lap time to go. And questions are going to be asked whether he can improve by 0.7 or not, which is a big ask. But obviously he might just be aiming for a top 5 position at this stage and try to reduce some of the damage that's been done in the first half of the session. So it's an interesting dynamic. Obviously our championship leader in P1 and his rival in P14, and it's definitely not looking good for Gabriel as of right now.
And Gabriel, of course, down in P14, his results have not been as good as Apex either. He's 12 points behind in the championship, but he's one less podium, one less race win. And Imola, of course, as more said in the introduction, Imola, a very difficult track to overtake at. You don't really want to be qualifying 14th when you're in a championship battle. We were looking at Lewis on a hot lap, but he's back down on that one, heading through Pirtella. Ryman is improving by almost 0.5, or it's almost 0.5 of a second. This would jump him up into the top 10 if he can keep it steady, heading through the Ravazzas. Down towards the start-finish line comes the Alpine. Where can he go in qualifying? Oh, it's disappointing. In the end, he's gone to 12th. He lost about 1/10 of a second in that final sector, and that's not great for him. That lap would have jumped him up ahead of Covers, so he's lost a lot of time in the final sector. But the challengers are coming out to battle it out for pole position here in Imola. Not only, or should I say, pole is a little bit far away, but that's the not only battle these drivers are fighting for. You can see it's so close between 2nd and 5th, and that can be make or break for a good Grand Prix. You want to be realistically on the front row here, because of course it's a very tight turn 1 into Tamburello. Doesn't really widen up throughout the entire of the track. Skyline retiring from the Grand Prix, but we saw he was, or from the qualifying I should say, not the Grand Prix. Hopefully he's not retired from the Grand Prix at this early stage, but he retires from qualifying. Of course we saw he was a little bit out of sync on his runs, so he has had 3 runs completed. Cover is one of the first to start his next attempt in qualifying. Let's keep an eye on him as he heads through the Ferrante Villeneuve down towards the sector split time. Oh no, that's not a good first sector at all. 0.361 down. He's going to back off that one and go again, because you're not going to get anything out of that lap. And if you can come back from being 3.5 of a second down in the first sector, there is a huge amount of potential in that lap. So he's going to back off and go again. Lewis improving by 7.5 seconds on his lap, which is usually a very positive thing to see, but unfortunately he's 12 seconds down anyways, so he's got a lot to do here in the session. Ryman retires from qualifying. He was in the pit lane, so that is a manual retirement in the pit lane, not a crash on the circuit. Lewis then heading towards the start-finish line. He's going to get the flurry of times underway here in the final part of qualifying. He's going to jump up to 16th. It's not the wooden spoon in qualifying. That is one positive at least for him. Baki is 2.5 down in the first sector. I think Apex lap could be just a little bit out of reach potentially here in the final part of qualifying. Let's keep an eye on Max van der Giest as he's heading down towards Aqua Minerale on his final run in the session, flicking it through the very fast right-hander and the a bit slower one, but still quite quick for the nature of the corner. Then up towards the Verante Alto, we saw Tales retire from qualifying through this corner. Max pushes it through there, keeps it steady, Little bit sliding on the rear, but still very impressive through there for Max. He's got a lot of time potentially in this final sector just from that exit alone, down towards turn number 17 and in towards 18. 19 to come for the home team of Alpha Tauri. Can Max put them on pole and give them something to cheer about here in Imola? No, not quite. It's only going to be 5th position. Baki has backed off his lap, pardon the pun. Keke is, of course, improving narrowly as Dirk goes to 4th spot. That's a good lap from him. There's a Ferrari behind of Newt. It's only going to be 10th for Newt. He's not too happy with his pace here this evening, and unfortunately it is showing. Baki pulls into the pit lane. Airpeck is improving on his lap, but he doesn't even really need to here because Keke is not improving by enough in the middle sector either. Down towards the start-finish line, Keke jumps onto the front row here in Imola. That's a very good final qualifying lap from him. Here comes Airpeck to put the benchmark up higher, purely for showboating potentially from Airpeck. Pole was already in the bag pretty much, but a 113.2 sees him go well clear at the top. Dark unfortunately making a mistake on his lap. Can G-League Ethan surprise us with something? Nope, because he's invalidated, which means it's going to be the Williams of Airpeck on pole here in Imola. The Italians have their man on top once again.
Fantastic job from our championship leader. 7 places put between himself and his main rival. That is exactly what you want to do at a track that only has one DRS zone. So Airpeck looking fantastic in this session. And then NLR Keke not right behind him. He will be right behind him on the grid, but times wide 2.5 tenths behind. And, 2 tenths behind, but that is still a very big gap, and obviously the shorter... Sorry, I think that was someone in the game chat there, who's... Whoops, there's someone in the game chat talking, but, yeah, sorry. 2 tenths between the top two is obviously quite a big gap, but after Airpeck, the gaps are really close. Like you mentioned, those top 5 super close together from Dirk all the way to Keke. There's only 1/10 separating those guys. So, yeah, it's good to see that the top 5 are that close, and hopefully that means that we are also going to have a really close race, even with the limited overtaking opportunities.
Well then, ladies and gentlemen, Airpeck, of course, who's on pole with 113.258. It's then Keke, Baki, Skyline, Dirk, Max, Von der Geest, Fede, Gabriel, Dark, Spicer, Newt, Zane, Covers, Johan, Diogo Silva, Ryman, Lewis, Ethan, and of course the one retirement of Tales. Folks, the Italian Grand Prix coming up after a commercial break. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Imola here in Italy. Of course, it is the only other track apart from Monza to host the Italian Grand Prix. Of course, the 1980 Italian Grand Prix was here at Imola. It's a 4.909 kilometre circuit, 3.050 miles, 19 corners, all equally as challenging. The driver's title has never been decided at Imola, but there could well be some implications here this evening. Airpeck with a fantastic qualifying, Gabriel qualifying in the mid-pack. But more, who takes your fancy for the race win?
I mean, it's got to be the man with the best record, NLR Airpeck. 2 race wins already this season. He's just secured pole position by 2 tenths. He's looking to win the championship. He's the fastest driver in this division, and it might be a boring guess, but I think it's my best bet.
It's a safe bet from more. Let us know down below who you think is going to win in the stream chat. Of course, Airpeck took your fancy on our qualifying poll. You were all absolutely correct to predict the championship leader. Well, most of you were correct. There was 42 votes and a lot weren't for Airpeck, but, you know, we'll let you be. But this should be an exciting one. Lots of interesting tyre strategies coming up, which we will discuss after the initial race start. But it is the famous Tamburello chicane first up for these guys to face, and then it's the Varante Villeneuve, which was named, of course, in 1982, just 2 weeks after, unfortunately, we lost Gilles Villeneuve at Zolder. Another fun fact about this circuit is in the local town, also called Imola, the current CEO of Formula 1, Stefano Domenicali, grew up and lived his younger years there. Hopefully we are going to racing action soon. Usually we are put on the grid by now. There is no timer, unfortunately, on this game. Last week, of course, if you were watching in Japan, we had a few incidents, but to give you the incident report, there was only one penalty given. That was for Nicolope. But here we go then. 3, 4, 5, red lights. And we go racing here in Imola. That's a very good launch from Airpec on the front row, but an equally good one from Keke on the outside. He's looking to pull alongside here, heading towards Tamburello. The Mercedes is in the lead of the Italian Grand Prix briefly, but Airpec keeps it up the inside. They're side by side in towards turn number 2 and 3, and heading afar. Airpec just about keeps the lead. Great racing from the pair. The Finishman looking for it up the inside into the Varante Villeneuve. Backy losing a spot as well to the Alfa Romeo of Skyline. He has got a very quick start heading in towards Toza. Dirk is in 5th spot. Max holding in 6th. Gabriel holds in 8th. Nothing gained, but nothing lost for the Mercedes. There's a couple of moves down the back. OP Newt has fallen to the back here with Zane looking up the inside of Spicer in towards the left-hander of Pilaritella. That's a great move there from him, but Spicer has lost another spot to OP Covers, and there's the 2 cars round. There's a McLaren and an Aston Martin. That is Shazoo Fede and OP Dirk, last week's race winner, who goes round. There was obviously a bit of contact heading in towards Acqua Minerale, and they are both not beneficiaries of that. Dirk now 18th, Fede 19th. They're down 13 and 12 positions respectfully. A very hectic start here in Imola. The tyres are on your screen on the left hand side.
Yeah, that's a super unfortunate incident there for OP Dirk. I think what's happened is Max van der Geest has just broken too late coming into Acqua Minerale. He slammed into the back of OP Dirk, spinning him round and forcing him to come into the pit lane for a new front wing change. So that's super unfortunate for the Outplayed Racing man, especially to go like that against your Outplayed Racing teammate. Hopefully he can now recover and still do well in this race, but he'll definitely be hoping from a safety car for this point on. But because of all the incidents that have happened, P7 and P6 now separated by more than a second, which means that DRS link is going to be broken once we reach lap 3. Hopefully Shazoo Zane can get himself into that 1 second range. He is slowly catching up, and he's one of the only drivers to start on the medium compounded tyre. There's only 3 drivers, himself, Shazoo Fede, his teammate, and also Tails, who's currently down in P18 after having to make an unscheduled pit stop. So Shazoo Zane, he's really got to use these mediums while they have their advantage over the hard compounded tyre. But after this lap 2, everyone trying their best to settle in, and it's a lot easier to settle in when you don't really have a lot of opportunities to overtake. Obviously lap 1, there's a bit of chaos, there's a bit of carnage, people spinning, people making mistakes. You're able to slip up the inside every now and again, but once these drivers get into a rhythm, it's going to be super hard to find any gaps in the defense. But DRS is now enabled on this 3rd lap of the race. We're seeing Shazoo Fede overtake G-League Ethan. That's because Ethan is in for the front wing change on his Red Bull, so he must have also been caught up in an instance. That's super shame, because now both Red Bull drivers have had to come in for front wing changes. But I think the main focus now is on this battle for P7, because if Zane cannot get into that DRS of Gabriel, I think we might see a move from VIR Dark pretty soon, because he is decently close coming into what is now turn number 9 for Shazoo Zane. He knows what he has to do. He's burning all of his ERS below 10% at this stage and pushing the track limits as much as he possibly can. Well, let's see the moment of truth coming up. The DRS detection point is on the exit of this 15th turn. And let's see the gap, currently 1.1 seconds, the white line that is coming up now, and it looks like he's missed out on that DRS, so I think we're going to see a move from VIR Dark here.
Yeah, a bit of a schism forming in the middle of the pack. Irpek had looked to find his rhythm very early on here, but Keke is keeping him honest at the front of the grid. Let's take a look on board. The VIR dark red light already flashing on Zane. Oh, just take a look at that for a straight line speed advantage. Zane does not know what's just happened. That is one way to discombobulate the driver, when a car can just soar past you as quick as that. Either Dark has saved a lot of battery, which he hasn't saved an awful lot, he saved a lot more than Zane, but that's just how powerful the DRS here is in Imola. So that's one thing to keep an eye on. Irpek up the top is certainly doing a very good job on his Williams, but if Dark can overtake a DRS car that quickly, Keke can easily do the same thing with the DRS, and Skyline is keeping with these two as well. Very impressive from Skyline, of course, the main driver in that Alfa Romeo team, but we've seen a few drivers in and out of that Alfa Romeo car across the course of a season, but that's nothing unusual for league racing. Skyline, or Irpek I should say, apologies, getting a much better exit out of the Varante Alta, and that gap raises to 0.5 of a second, but if the DRS is as powerful as it was, that 0.5 of a second is nigh on nothing heading through Ravazza. 0.7 the gap. Let's watch on board Keke and look behind us, because the challenge is going to come from Skyline. But look at this delta decrease. Look how quickly this Mercedes is gaining down towards Tamburello. If he gets maybe within 0.5 of a second, 0.2 closer, it's definitely doable, as Zane soars past Dark, meaning it was not coincidental that Dark got past. It is definitely going to be a race of hanging in the DRS and seeking to get past the car in front into Tamburello. But again, that's nothing really surprising to us, as Dark runs wide and OP covers now, chucking it up the inside. The Haasman looking for the move, heading down towards Piratella. The Alfa Romeo is just going to have enough here. Going to burn a bit of battery and stays in front. Dirk then setting the fast lap of the Grand Prix, 1:16.6. We had a few pitters, of course, Dirk, Tales and Ethan. Dirk went for the mediums, Ethan also for the mediums, Tales went for the hards. There was only two drivers to start in the mediums at the start of the Grand Prix. That was both Aston Martins and Shizou Racing drivers of Zane and Fede. So they'll be going on to the hards at the latter stage of the race. Everybody else can put on a fresh set of Pirelli's medium compounded tyres, which will most likely feel a lot better than the hards. Max van der Geest, opportunism, gets up the inside of Backy. Obviously feels Backy is holding him and is a cork in the bottle in this race, but the AlphaTauri is up and through, up the front. Let's take a look once again at this DRS. It seems like Irpek just has enough in that final sector to hold on down towards Tamburello.
Yeah, he definitely does, and it might even be a case of Keke just holding this P2 position. He knows how powerful that DRS is, and if he goes into the lead of the Grand Prix and makes even the slightest of mistakes out of turn number 18, as Irpek could, then he could not only lose the position to Irpek, but also Skyline, because the chances of being overtaken by two drivers on that DRS straight, it's not common at many other circuits, I should say, but at this one it's definitely possible to lose two positions if you don't have that power of DRS. So maybe not only is Keke trying to keep himself safe, he's also keeping Irpek safe from losing the lead of the Grand Prix. But we'll see how he reacts on the run into turn number 1, whether he lifts off the throttle or if he's trying to get closer for an overtaking maneuver. And he might have to, because Skyline is keeping him very honest, only 0.3 between the two of them. And Skyline, 5 DNFs so far this season, and only one finish. That was a I believe it was a P5 finish where he got 8 points. So hopefully the curse doesn't strike again and he can get onto the podium this race. But Keke, as he gets into turn number 1, braking just that little bit early, keeping some slight distance between himself and Irpek. So Keke happy enough to sit in P2 for now. He knows the second stint of the race, the medium compound tyre stint, that is where you are gaining all the points and all the positions. And currently, not a huge amount of pressure. The top 6 have their own little DRS train going on currently. And anyone outside of the top 4 is probably looking for a podium right now. Although the pit stops can obviously change everything, and they probably will. The strategy, the most crucial aspect of your race finishing position on this game, as it's shown itself in many Grand Prix before this. So that strategy decision that these drivers and their engineers are going to make that could prove all too crucial in where they actually end up in this race. So we might see the likes of Gabriel in P6 now, but who knows where he could be finishing come the end of this race. He's obviously won before here in PSF2, and I'm sure he's got the pace to do it again. So Gabriel, he's just got to hang on, keep recharging the ERS, which is what he's currently doing. And hopefully he'll be able to gain some positions from that. But Keke now, he is going to actually go for the move. It's around the outside of NLR Erpek, who doesn't battle that one too hard. He knows it's not worth fighting just yet. And Keke now is into the lead of the Grand Prix. Let's see how everyone else reacts to this.
Keke won a championship last season in F3 just by managing races, and he's doing something very similar here in Imola. Of course, won the Austrian Grand Prix. That was a bit different sort of a race. That was a fairly hectic one. This has been a little bit more laid back, maybe for league racing standards nowadays, but still a stunning job from these guys up the front to be so consistent. Erpek doesn't like being behind cars. He's like a 2019 Mercedes, really. Does not like to be in the dirty air and the warm air following a car. So he's more than likely than not going to go for this race lead. Erpek would much rather do what he did at Qatar and lead from the front. Not going to have a choice. Safety car is out. Double car collision. It's Spicer and Ryman who have come to blows, heading through the Aqua Minerale of turn number 11. Oh, unlucky for Spicer that one. He was having a good race replacing Macho in the Mercedes, but Ryman with front wing damage, the Mercedes retiring at a similar corner, would indicate to me that something has gone on there. Oh, a couple of pitters at the front. There is all the top four in, apart from Skyline. Gabriel in as well, Williams opting for the double stack. Are they going to try go medium to the end of this race? That's an interesting call, considering the majority of them were planning on going a lot further in this Grand Prix.
Yeah, I do think that is actually a good call, especially from Keke and Erpek. I think Skyline's been caught napping there by not coming into the pit lane. And yeah, these guys are going to the mediums. They lose that little bit of track position, but in the case of especially NLR Keke, maybe Gabriel losing out a little more because of that double stack, but Keke loses 3 positions. He now gets a fresh set of softer tires, and he still has to go to another set of mediums just like the 3 in front of him. So not only has he got better tires now, he's also going to have better tires later. So definitely a good call from those guys coming in during the safety car. Skyline covers in Johan, though. I maybe understand Johan's point of view. Obviously didn't have much track position to begin with. He's gone for a little bit of a riskier strategy, but Skyline, on the other hand, yeah, he's obviously trying something different, trying to stay out in P1. Maybe he'll think that he's obviously observed what Keke and Erpek were doing. They were just letting each other relax in the lead positions and switching every now and again. Maybe he thinks those guys will do the same with him, but when he's on the hard compounded tires, overtaking for everyone else is going to be a lot easier. So it's all going to be about the defense for the top 3 now, and also Jizu, Zane and Fede. They do have to go onto the hard, so they will be weaker than everyone else. Only thing is, they can now go to the end of the Grand Prix, with obviously the exception being another safety car. So the 2 Shizou guys in a very good position. This is a perfectly timed safety car for their race strategy. Hopefully there isn't any more for their sakes, but yeah, we'll see how those guys develop. We'll definitely have to keep an eye on them. But currently, the top 4, well, what were the top 4, now all behind the 3 hard runners at the front of the field. So I think the race, well, the potential race-winning culprits at this stage are still definitely Keke, Erpek, Max van der Geest and Baki. But the strategies are always different, they are always exciting, and they can always be very surprising. So even though it doesn't look good for the top 3 currently, who knows, maybe they'll pull something out of the bag at the end of the race. Maybe they have something in store that I just can't see. But yeah, there's anything that could happen, especially if there's another safety car. If another safety car comes out, then especially the likes of Johan, he'll be looking very, very smart in this race. So strategy can still go either way. We're only on lap 10 of 32 and plenty of racing to go.
Yeah, it's a good call, that one, from Keke, Erpek, and the rest of them. It's very similar to what we saw Tales pull off in Austria. He had to do it to a little bit further extent, Of course, he got damage in the opening laps. There was a safety car, so he pulled into the pit lane and chucked on a set of the medium tyres, burned through the field, got up to the front, and then pit at the same time as everybody else. Skyline probably would be in a good position if more people stayed out, but there's only 2 people behind him, which does leave him vulnerable if Keke and Irpek can get past pretty quickly, where what he obviously was hoping, or assumed or hoping, was that there would be a few more people, Gabriel, Dark, Diogo, Silva, Lewis even maybe, would stay out and sort of play rear gunner potentially, but no, that's not the case. He only has 2 cars of a buffer, and yeah, it's brought an interesting split strategy into this race. Of course, Keke and Irpek are going to work together. They're both part of the same team, the same esports team, of course. The only similarities between their team here in PSGL is the engine, which is Mercedes for both. But yeah, Keke is he's going to work together more likely than not with Irpek here, and then they'll fight it out towards the end of the race. Keke, of course, has a soft spot for Williams. That's where he won his first PSGL title in PSGL F3 last season. So yeah, he will be doing everything possible to win this race still. Keke is a racer, first and foremost, teammate second, and that will be the case with a lot of these drivers, because you don't get to this level by not being a little bit selfish at times. And by selfish, we don't necessarily mean that in a bad way, more just making overtakes for race wins instead of sitting behind your championship challenger esports teammate. In terms of Gabriel, he could come into this one. We know Gabriel is very good on sort of an alternate strategy. The unfortunate thing for him is there's a lot of people on an alternate strategy here today, but he could still perform. It seems like Gabriel performs a lot better later on in the race than he would in qualifying in the opening stint. We saw that in Bahrain, a race where he would win. Didn't keep the win, unfortunately, got a post-race penalty by the stewards, but he still did go on to win the next race in Silverstone. That was a wet race, so completely different ball game altogether. But Bernd Maylander has had enough, and the racing circuit is clear. We're going to go racing in a couple of corners' time. Skyline wants to play this to jeopardise Keke and Irpek more than he does Covers and Johan, because he obviously has the pace of a Covers and Johan, and that is a brilliant race start. We go racing once again here. But Keke is right up the gearbox, and that's going to be a Ferrari in front. Here comes Keke trying it round the outside. That'll become the inside then for the next corner at Tamburello. The Mercedes up the inside now, still too wide, heading for the braking zone. Does the Ferrari brake the latest? No, Keke does. There's a slight nudge entering the corner, but that's a crucial and critical move from the finishman, who is up to 3rd spot here. You can see Irpek trying it in the background as well. That's a late lunge into the Volante Villeneuve. That is very good move on the car Villeneuve used to drive. Of course, there's going to be a Ferrari. Johan is falling down this field, and he is falling at an extremely quick rate. It is like a heavy stone through water how quick he is falling to the bottom of this field. He's down to 6th already here in the restart lap. Skyline and Covers have had a much better restart, but just look who's on the back. It's like Jaws catching the back of this hat. He's catching quicker than Covers can run. Here comes Keke trying it round the outside for the Ferrante Alta. We've saw a few collisions here already this evening in both qualifying and the race, but Keke gets a much better exit off the corner. The Mercedes is up to 2nd position here. Is he going to go for the race lead as soon as now? Irpek up the inside, heading in towards the Ravazza 17 and into the Ravazza of 18. Max van der Geest goes up the inside of Covers on the hard tyre. That is the tyre deficit you are witnessing firsthand. Skyline led for a lap. Keke was in 4th. Keke's going for 1st. Skyline gets close to the Qatar Airways sponsorship. That throws him off a little bit. The finishman of Keke leads here in Imola. That is nothing short of perfect for a restart lap from Keke.
Some very smooth overtakes in that last lap, and he knows exactly what he's doing. He's going as quickly as possible. He's burning every little bit of ERS he has left in the hopes of breaking the DRS range to NLR Irpek. So far, when it was overtaking Covers and Johan, he was able to follow through with Keke pretty easily, but now Skyline, he's a little bit further behind, and he's going to have to overtake Skyline sooner rather than later as they exit. back coming in and rally. It's a mistake from Skyline. This might be perfect for Enolar Urpek. He's going to use all the ERS down this straight and make a nice easy move down the inside. Can Skyline do anything on the exit? No is the answer because of the grip in the tires. But Keke's strategy has worked out perfectly. He's 1.7 seconds ahead of Urpek, and it doesn't even matter that he has only got about 20% ERS left because of how far ahead he is. Only problem is Urpek has done a lot better job at conserving that battery and now can maybe use a little bit of it to close down that 4/10 gap that he needs to get back into DRS, which has just been enabled as Max van der Geest gets past VII Skyline on the run into the Tamburello chicane. He's now up into the podium positions once again. Baki trying to go for a switchback move through turn number 3. Very nice line there from Baki, and he's able to get past VII Skyline, who loses four positions in just 2 laps there, not even. So Skyline's hard tires are not working at all. He is still in that top 5 though, and if the pit stops came a little sooner, it might work out for him, but currently it's not, as he actually allows Gabriel to go through there, and not holding Gabriel up one bit, maybe deciding that battling these medium runners, he already saw what happened the last 4 times, deciding it's not worth a 5th go. So he's now just going to try to hold into that DRS of Gabriel. But right now, he's just got the 2 hard runners of Ioan and Covers behind him. So he's got a little less pressure to deal with. Meanwhile, Diogo Silva is trying to apply pressure to the back of OP Covers, and he might even be looking for a move. Tries to go to the inside and then to the outside, but Covers is absolutely everywhere, trying to block all the lines going into that turn. And he is able to hold that P8 position coming out of turn number 18. Is Diogo Silva going to have another go? Yes is the answer. This time, though, he's got the DRS down this straight, and the straight line speed is immaculate, but he's just been boxed in by the Ferrari. So instead of overtaking OP Covers, he's going to go to the outside line of Johan, who tries to brake as late as he possibly can, but he has to leave the space for Diogo Silva. And very respectful racing from Johan. But now he's actually going to lose the position to his teammate as he allows him through into the second chicane of the circuit. So Johan continuing to drop down positions, but a little bit further ahead, Enolar Urpek has been able to catch up to the DRS of Keke. Both of them extremely low on the battery, and that goes for everyone in the top 5. So all the top 5 have been pushing extremely hard off of that safety car restart, but now they find themselves in a similar position to what they were before the safety car, and that is the top 5 separated from the rest of the field. But what's this? Coming up to the DRS detection point, Urpek has not got DRS, and what is this going to mean in his defense up against Max van der Geest?
The longest straight at Imola here is just over 2/3 of a kilometre, but it's a long road ahead for the hard tyre runners until they reach their next pit stop. Skyline, Covers and Johan are falling back here in this race. Max not close enough for a move in towards Tamburello, where we somehow saw 2 Ferraris, an Alpine and a Red Bull, survive going side by side. That was a very interesting battle, and it shows that you can still race clean maybe on this F1 game, but Max is slowly gaining on Urpek, but more importantly for Urpek's race, he's back within DRS of Keke here heading through Tosa. Keke was in a very good spot, but unfortunately it only lasted the first sector here at Imola. Once again, if you're enjoying the action, folks, which you definitely should be, been a good race so far, make sure to pop a subscription on the PSGL YouTube channel. Make sure to like the stream to support the F2 Championship here in PSGL, and check out our title sponsors, GT Omega. We are just over the halfway point here in this Grand Prix as we enter halfway through lap 16 and a half laps to go. Keke makes a mistake for the Varante Alta. Urpek can just turn it up a notch whenever he pleases. It's almost like he just turns on a button and that Williams can go about 10 times quicker than any car. He was 1.1 seconds at this point in the last lap. He's 1/10 of a second behind at this point. Now, here comes Urpek on the main straight, heading down towards past the Varante Bassa MotoGP chicane. Urpek leads in towards Tamburello. The Italian is once again on top here in Imola, but Keke's not fallen to second. He's fallen behind the Italian car into third. Max van der Geest gets through to second in his Alpha Tauri. It is Urpek who leads from Max, who leads from Keke, who leads from Baki and Gabriel. That's a turn for the books for Keke. He had dropped the man in second, and a DRS window Now he's not just in second, he's in third and has even more work to do. He's not going to be panicking necessarily at this point because falling behind a car was probably inevitable at this race. He's just got to keep with them. There is a spinning car in the background. That's going to be the debutant of G-League Ethan, who spins around. Unfortunately, he's on 9-lap all hards and is suffering the same fate that we saw for our hard tyre runners higher up the order, despite him being on a quicker set. But Keke he's kept with them, so it's not like an issue or a sudden pace deficit for Keke. It was simply just Airpec doing Airpec things and catching in an extraordinary quick time. Let's see, can Max challenge the, I suppose you could say, unadvantaged Williams with no DRS? He's certainly catching. Is he going to go for an overtake? Gaining and gaining and gaining. No, going to sit behind. Gabriel doesn't sit behind Becky. He wants to be in this fight for the race win. He knows he needs it for his championship. We have not got a lot left in the season in terms of points, and he knows he needs to get the job done. Unfortunately, we have a third retirement in this race. That's Ryman for Alpine, who is out of the Grand Prix. Now, more just a quick question that you might know the answer to. These medium tyres, not going to make the end of the race. When's this next pit stop going to come?
It definitely has to be coming soon, and I'd say these medium runners would be wanting to come in around lap 21. Would probably be the ideal window, unless some of them want to get really risky and stretch them for the soft compounded tyre, in which case they'd probably have to go to around lap 26. So you can go either way. I don't know how well the soft compounded tyre is going to perform. We have seen at other circuits that it is a little bit better on this game than it was on the F1 22 game, but does that mean it's worth the risk? We don't know just yet. And not only do you have to consider whether you want to go from the mediums to the softs, you also have to consider the fact of possible rain. It's been overcast this whole time. We haven't seen any rain. There's always still a chance, probably not coming at this late stage, but you never know. As Skyline continues to lose positions, OP Nuth actually manages to get past Diogo Silva, and Fede almost made him lose 2 positions there. But yeah, that deadly double overtake that I was talking about down the DRS straight happened twice in 2 laps. First it happened to NLR Keke, and then it happened to, I believe it was VII Skyline. So it is definitely possible to lose 2 positions on run into turn number 1, and that's maybe why NLR Keke was holding off from overtaking Erpek earlier on in the race. And now he actually finds himself almost outside the DRS, but one man who's just gotten himself a 3-second time penalty, only the second one to be handed out in this race so far. It's NLR Gabriel, and as the second one is handed out, so is the third. Covers getting a 3-second time penalty, and here's another. It's VII Skyline, 4 in a row in the space of just 1 sector, and it looks like a lot of drivers have those track limits warnings building up. They're on their final warning now, and some of them just getting that third and final one, which could also mean that other drivers have those 2 warnings and are looking at a possible third. So yeah, the 3-second time penalties coming in thick and thin here, but you can see Diogo Silva and OP Nuth continue to battle away for that P6 position, but it's all eyes on the top 3. NLR Keke has got himself back up into the DRS of the top 2, which is absolutely crucial for his Grand Prix. And as long as he can stay there, he'll be fine so far. But yeah, these guys still have a pit stop to make. Like you mentioned, it's very important when they decide to go in. The undercut, the overcut, so many choices. And as we saw with the safety car, once again, the strategy is one of the most crucial aspects of your race. And if we have another pit stop coming up, that means we might see another shuffle in the grid as well. So we're on lap 20 of 32, over halfway in this race, and yet we still have so much potential for action, and I'm really looking forward to how these final few laps now go.
What's the old adage? When you want one bus to come, it won't, but then 2 will arrive. Well, we've got that, except for 3-second time penalties. We didn't get one for ages, and then we got 3 in a row. But we can see Max on the back of Airpeck for the race lead. Max no longer on the back of Airpeck. He takes the race lead, and we saw when Airpeck lost the race lead last time round, or when he lost it before the safety car came out pretty quickly, and Airpeck had work to do. Back further afield, here comes Newt, trying it round the outside of on Fede, heading in towards Tamburello. Newt breaks late and gets the job done, and Tales is forced across the gravel. Sort of very similar to the Max Verstappen Lewis Hamilton incident in 2021. Tales was forced even further than that, however. He had to go across the gravel. He's not going to be too happy with Fede there, who is unfortunately defending for his life on those hard tyres. But Newt in 7th, doing a very good job for a man who had given up all hope on this race before it had even started. He was posting Tour de France hot laps about a half an hour before the race began. But he's swapped his 2 pedal wheels for 4 much quicker ones, I suppose you could say, and he's running a good race here in 7th, catching Diogo Silva for 6th. More mentioned rain not so long ago, and since that, it's got a lot duller here in Imola. Imola, of course, can throw rain. We usually get intermediate conditions a lot in Imola. But let's see then. Is it getting dull enough for rain, or is it just a overcast afternoon here in Emilia-Romagna? Airpeck retakes the race lead ahead of Max van der Geest, and that's sort of a fairly straightforward pass. They're going to be swapping back and forth for a few laps, you feel here. The Italian driver and the Italian car, well, sort of Italian car, AlphaTauri, of course, is technically the junior team of Austrian company Red Bull Racing, but the team is based off Toro Rosso, which is an Italian car, and of course Toro Rosso based off Minardi, which was most certainly an Italian car. Skyline did pit 2 laps ago. He's just set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix in 14th. It's an undercut attempt from Skyline, one that we definitely got to keep an eye on. Would you say from this point that these guys, the top 8, well, top 10 specifically, are waiting for the soft tyres?
I was exactly going to mention just that, because I'm looking at VII Dark down in P15. He's been on the softs for 8 laps and he hasn't decided to box, although it does look like he's losing quite a bit of time to Skyline, so they're probably well past their best. But the prediction master has just come into play. Conor Moore guessing the rain, and there is rain splashes on the screen now, which means Skyline has not gone on the right strategy, and VII Dark is stretching those softs, which are completely dead because he's just lost a second in about 20 seconds. He's stretching them because we're going to see the wet tires, whether it's the full wets or the intermediates. We're about to find out, but you can see why all these guys boxed for the mediums during the safety car, and why the likes of Skyline and Johan try to stay out on the hards in the hope of reaching the rain. They've now reached the rain. The only problem is they didn't really gain many positions from it, although I think Johan might have gained 1 or 2, but he's on 22 lap old hard compound tires. He's pretty lucky that he hasn't found himself with a puncture, but the rain is now falling on the circuit, and conditions are going to get quite tricky, especially since you're on these slicks with a greasy circuit. You're going to see your braking point speed different, your racing lines, so you have to adapt in the moment and then hopefully get yourself onto the inters or the wets pretty soon. So you can see NLR Airpack is about to begin lap 24, so he's not going to box just yet. But it's we'll wait and see how quickly this rain picks up. Currently hasn't had a major effect on the circuit just yet, and Max van der Geest taking the advantage while he still can in these somewhat dry conditions. He takes the lead of the Grand Prix on lap 24 of 32 ahead of NLR Airpack. The top 3 continue to lead ahead of NLR Gabriel, who's still 1.6 seconds behind. OP Nuth actually losing a position to Tails, who's moved up to P7 now. So Tails is on an absolute madness here. He started in last place, dead last after retiring the session, P19. He's now P7 after gaining 12 positions in this race. So great job from Tails so far. He's just got to now transfer that over into the wet conditions. But You can see more 3-second time penalties with the track conditions worsening. It's a lot easier to go wide and get invalidations. Baki is now another man in the top 7 with a 3-second time penalty. We see G-League Ethan, he's the first man to pull the trigger. He's gone on the inters. He's got pretty much nothing to lose, so we can compare his pace to VII Dark on the softs, although VII Dark on the softs probably isn't a great benchmark because of how slow his tires currently is. Nevertheless, top 3 continue to stay out, so the rain is falling, but it's taking its time to take a toll on the circuit.
Here comes Airpec. You can see these two are not holding back the rain, well predicted by the newly self-dubbed Prediction Master at More Games, but Max and Airpec not holding back. Keke may be a little bit more conservative in these conditions, but he's a very good driver in sort of all conditions, so don't rule him out of this Grand Prix just yet. Johan, 5 seconds, speeding in the pit line. That is a mammoth effort from Johan. 24 laps on hard compound tyres. We have 3 drivers on the intermediates now, so we do have a better sort of representation, a sample size of 3 compared to the sample size of 1 from Ethan. Ethan is slowly gaining on Dark, but of course Dark softs are probably worse than the full wets at this point, really, being 11 laps old. But he does overtake Dirk in the pit lane. Dirk has come out right behind him, so we have a very quick, accurate representation of how the conditions are. And you can see Dirk overtaking Dark for 13th spot. That might indicate that maybe the intermediates are slowly growing into this Grand Prix. Of course, DRS being disabled is usually the indication that league racers would go for going for the intermediates. But if you're someone like Dirk, if you're someone like Ethan, you're going to go for that gamble a little bit earlier and see, can you get something out of this Grand Prix. Here comes McDormand Geese for the race lead once again on the outside. The AlphaTauri swapping and changing with the Williams. You can see that Williams of Airpec now under 10%. He's made a mistake heading through Tamburello. That's a mistake from Airpec. Probably one of his first this season, but he's gone way too deep into the first part, and that compromises you through the second, and then you don't get a good exit for the third. And as they head into the Varante Villeneuve, it is OP Max who is leading this Grand Prix. This has been an excellent race by the Dutchman, and definitely don't look at his achievements so far in F2 and take them lightly. This man finished 8th in F8 last season, and he is performing on one of the biggest stages for console drivers in PSGL, and he is doing a very, very good job here in Imola. What a result it would be if Max could get a win. He's currently 16th in the championship, sat in 11 points, which is not a bad effort at all for Max. He took his first ever F2 podium last time out in Suzuka. If he could take his first ever F2 win here in Imola, that would be a huge feat. It's raining, but unlike the nursery rhyme, it's certainly not pouring. It is gradually getting a little bit wetter here, but I wonder what state are these tyres in. 17, 18 lap old mediums. They're not going to be feeling too good, and it's sort of a race of, will we get a puncture first or have to box for the intermediates? Dark has lost 2.2 seconds on OP Dirk, but there's certainly not a huge deficit of staying out on these slicks.
Yeah, it definitely seems so. It seems like the slicks are actually faster. I do believe OP Dirk last lap was 7.5 seconds behind covers. Now finds himself 9.5 seconds, and you can tell just by looking at the circuit whether it's time for the inters or not, as Tails and Fed have been having quite a battle for the last 2 laps. But yeah, you can just tell by looking at the circuit, and right now the circuit looks completely dry, even though it is raining. So it's quite rare, but sometimes on the F1 games you can have the type of rain that doesn't force you to go to the inters. It just makes your life a little bit more difficult on the slicks, and that's exactly what the drivers are experiencing. So it's like driving on a dry circuit, just a little bit more drifty. So everyone who stayed out on the mediums, they've made the right call, but I think you've hit the nail on the head there with saying that these mediums are 18 laps old and they still have to go another 5 laps in this race as we tick over to lap 28 of 32. So puncture territory is coming up as Gabriel overtakes Enel Keke on the run down into turn number 1, and Erpek, his teammate, doing the exact same thing on Max van der Geest, and holding that lead over the AlphaTauri for now, who's got a nice little slipstream heading into the second chicane of the circuit. But these mediums have pretty much no grip at this stage, and they'll be lucky not to get a puncture, as we saw the hards barely lasted 23 laps for OP Johan, so you can only expect what's going to happen to the medium. So it might come down to a little bit of luck for the top 5 and hoping that they don't get a puncture in this race. But they've got 5 laps to go, and hopefully they could just hang on to these tires a little bit longer. NLR Gabriel and Keke now up into the DRS of the top 2, so they're in that battle for the lead. Only problem for NLR Gabriel's case is he's got that 3-second time penalty. Currently would drop him behind NLR Keke in this race, but that doesn't mean he can't try and help out his teammate, although whether he'll want to or not, since they are the 2 main championship rivals, so we'll have to wait and see. But Gabriel's come into the pit lane. Is this because you can see he's sliding into the pits there? Is he worried about a puncture? He must be, because the circuit still is not ready for the intermediate compounded tires.
The rear left looked very dodgy entering the pit lane. Oh no, hold on a second. It's getting a lot wetter out on circuit. The Brazilian might have just masterstroked this, because there was a lot of sliding for the Finishman Keke, who has very good car control in these conditions. Gabriel, of course, won the only wet endeavour here in PSGL F2 this season. That was in Silverstone. Keep an eye on Gabriel. He exits the pit lane. We'll get a delta time now, hopefully. 3.9, 4.2, about 4.3-ish behind Skyline. Keep an eye on Gabriel. It's getting very slippery through Piratella down towards Aqua Minerale. Of course, Aqua not being related to rain, but it's quite literally going to become a river down there in a few laps' time. But how many laps will it take for it to get even wetter? Is the deficit of pitting quicker than staying out? Gabriel's caught 2/10 on Skyline, but that could just be to the wear on the mediums, although Skyline has jumped up to 7th from that pit stop. Newt and Fede both battling. You can see Fede's tyres actually probably the better of that battle. Oh, Airpeck is in. It's Williams pitting both their drivers. Max is going to try the Lando Norris strategy, so I'm going to just dub it here, and stay out on the slicks in gradually worsening wet conditions. Keke in for a set of inters as well. Airpeck is in for the set of the intermediates, as you would expect. Diogo Silva and Fede both stay out. Fede to 2nd, Diogo to 3rd. Where is Gabriel in relation to his championship challenger, and most importantly, his teammate? Here is Airpeck on pit exit. Gabriel, the Brazilian, flies past the Italian, and Gabriel is now the lead Williams here in this Imola Grand Prix. But crucially, Gabriel has that 3-second time penalty. Of course, everything could go very wrong for him if he cannot pull a 3-second deficit over the cars behind. It's 1.5, 1.6 now, and we know Gabriel excels in these sort of conditions. He's kind of like Jenson Button in a way, very much a quick driver in changeable conditions. Believe running a Senna tribute here, and of course Ayrton himself was a fabulous driver in changeable conditions. Max is lapping 4.7 seconds off his PB. It's a 14.6 second deficit between himself and Fede, but most crucially, let's take a look at the gap to the leader. It is a 23.7 second deficit to the lead man on the intermediate, which is, of course, NLR Gabriel. But both him and Airpeck, 1 and 2 in the championship, arguably, and very arguably, it's sort of kind of opinion this next statement, 2 of the quickest drivers here in this field. They are going to be hunting him down like a lion chasing their prey. But Max is going for the unthinkable, potentially. Skyline drops behind Gabriel. Max is going for the unthinkable and trying to win his first PSGL F2 race for AlphaTauri in their own backyard. AlphaTauri located in nearby town of Firenze, which is certainly not too far from Italy. It is probably only 30 minutes away at a stretch, but, well, that could be my Irishness coming through and thinking everything is beside each other. Airpeck no longer beside Skyline. He overtakes the Alfa Romeo and is up to 5th position now in this Grand Prix. Let's just take a look at gap to the leader. They're not catching enough. It's still 21.2 seconds. There needs to be a severe thunderstorm, rain shower, hailstones, maybe a bit of snow thrown in for Max to lose this one. He's still pulling from Fede. Fede's hard tires are going to be stone cold at this point in the Grand Prix. They're not going to be easy to heat up. They're not going to be feeling very nice here, but Fede is going for a fantastic result as well. He's got one more lap of a very sketchy circuit in very difficult conditions. 1:25.5 for Max is 9 seconds off his personal best in this Grand Prix, but he's heading in towards Tamburello now, coasting it through. 1 and 2, all good through there for the AlphaTauri. Let's see what Gabriel's lap is. 1:25 for Max, remember. 1:21 flat for Gabriel. He's lapping 3-ish seconds quicker than the race leader. Eaton picks up a 3-second time penalty. Max heading up towards Toza. Famous incident. Michael Schumacher and Juan Pablo Montoya through here. Hamilton suffered on Inters through there. Max gets through it on the slick tyres. You can see Fede catching gradually. You can see the Inters becoming a lot better at this stage of the Grand Prix. The intermediates are certainly catching, as you can see Gabriel sliding it through the corners to catch Diogo Silva, to pull away from his teammate. Heading in towards Acqua Minerali for the final time. The Dutchman has controlled it well through there. Gabriel now up to third, passes Diogo Silva. This is going to be a chase to the finish. Max just needs to keep it on the road, heading in towards the very sketchy Ferrante Alta. Lot of crashes, lot of moments through here. Airpeck overtakes Diogo Silva in towards Acqua Minerali. Just 2 corners to go for Max. It's the 2 Ravazzas. He made some brilliant dives into here in the Grand Prix, passing Ferraris and Red Bulls. 1 more corner to go. Staying out on the slicks is really worked out. Max slides it through the final corner. Was not showmanship. The F8 underdog is an F2 winner. Max van der Geest wins the Italian Grand Prix at Imola. Fede gonna come home in second, or is he? Look at Gabriel chasing him. Look at Gabriel drag race to the line. Both have penalties. Fede takes second, but Airpeck will jump them both. Airpeck up to second, extends his championship lead by 4 respective points over his teammate Gabriel. It's gonna be a 16-point lead for Airpeck into the next round of the season. Oof, that was an absolute thrilling finish for what was an already good Grand Prix here in Imola.
That has got to be one of the best strategies I think I've ever seen on any F1 game. Max van der Geest, he saw how slowly the rain was affecting the circuit, decided he may as well try it and stay out on the mediums. He put it all on the line. He could have got a puncture, he could have spun out, anything could have happened, but with DRS being disabled at the end of the race and after Max van der Geest had finished, he picked the perfect strategy, decided to stay out. To be fully honest, when I saw NLR Erpek come into the pit lane and Max van der Geest stay out, I thought it was all over for the AlphaTauri, but at the end of the day, 14.4 seconds, he had the car control to pick his way through the dry line. Max van der Geest is a very deserved race winner, and we also must mention Shizu Fede. He's another man who was pretty much nowhere in this race. He was down in P9 and then got all the way up to P3 by adopting the same strategy as Max van der Geest, beating NLR Gabriel by a 10th.5. So, I mean, those 2 drivers have done a fantastic job. Obviously, they weren't the only 2 to stay out on the slicks, but they were the 2 that did it the best. So, huge congratulations to the both of them. And then even with Erpek boxing for the intermediate compound tires, he's still able to sneak up into P2 and get a good result. Obviously wasn't able to convert that pole into a win, but obviously getting P2 is still a very good result. But 14.3 seconds is the gap between the top 2. That is a fantastic strategy from Max van der Geest, with Fede on the podium, Gabriel in P3, and then Keke finishing a bit further down in P5 on the Inters. And then I do believe it was Diogo Silva and Skyline who also stayed out on the slick tires, and Skyline actually ends up getting the fastest lap of the Grand Prix as well. So even though his race didn't go his way at the start, obviously staying out during the safety car, he was still able to bring home some very good points for himself today. So great job to everyone. I think everyone did a fantastic job in this race, but the 2 NLR guys got quite unlucky with boxing for the Inters.
Yeah, what a fabulous race. Your top 10, of course, it is Max, Airpeck, Fede, Gabriel, Keke, Diogo Silva, Skyline, Back Eat News, and Covers. Skyline taking the fastest lap point. Unfortunately, folks, it does not seem like we are going to get a post-race interview, as my light is exceptionally bright on the screen for some reason. I do apologise, folks. But unfortunately, it's looking like we're not going to get an interview. It's just asking Max and Fede there, but they are unable to do it. It wasn't the Italian winner in the form of Airpec who won today, but it was still a fabulous result for the Italian team of Scuderia AlphaTauri. They do quite well in wet races around Italy, don't they? While we wait and see, can we hear from our championship leader, let's take a look at what's coming up for you next week in PSGL. Well, if you like races that sometimes have a bit of rain, a bit of drama, a little bit of chaos added in, then you might enjoy Spa-Francorchamps, which is coming up as the 8th round of the season here in PSGL. Jeddah Corniche circuit, then it won't be wet, but it'll most certainly be chaotic, is round 9, with the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez coming up is the 10th round of the season in Mexico. 2 more rounds still to be announced more. You got any personal preference on those?
Oh, I mean, it's a hard call. We've already got so many fantastic circuits on the calendar this season. I think PSGL have obviously tried to open up strong on this new F1 23 game, but I don't know, we could see literally any circuit, and maybe we could see a France being thrown in there. Maybe, I know PSGL loves to throw in a good street circuit, which the only one so far is Jeddah, so we might see a cheeky Singapore or Baku or something like that, although I know the stewards don't really like Baku because, well, there are plenty of incidents to be had at that circuit, so I'm thinking there'll probably be a street circuit for round 11 and then a nice open one for the season finale of round 12. But that's obviously up to the guys who organize it. But looking at the 3 that we do know, Belgium, Jeddah, Mexico, I mean, those are probably in the top at least 7 for racing on this game. You get so much action at those 3 circuits, and I think we're in for a good next 3 weeks in this season.
We should be in for a fabulous end to the PSGL season. Well, folks, unfortunately, we're not going to get an interview from Airpec here this evening. I've been left on red, quite frankly, if you'd like to know. But unfortunately, we're not going to get an interview from him. He extends his championship lead heading into Spa-Francorchamps next week. We're going to let you go now, folks, and tune into your PSGL F1 action. That is with, of course, Jessica Ball and James Head. Also, around Imola. Will they be as dramatic as us here this evening? Well, we will find out in due course. From myself and more, thank you very much for joining us once again for PSGL F2. We hope you have a good week. Make sure to check out all your PSGL action throughout the course of the week. But from myself, stay safe, stay well, and we shall see you next time. Bye-bye.
Desperately trying to hang on. He's got the inside. Oh, here he's through on the left-hand side. Hooks the apex, gets on the power nicely, and that is job done. Jarno Opmeer now to the last couple of corners now. His finest drive, his greatest drive, and he's done it at the Circuit of the Americas. He returns to the top step of the podium. Once again, the ghost is back. Jarno Opmeer wins the US Grand Prix in a stunning Grand Prix.